So I recently decided to pick up Shadow Paladin, like the whole clan. I have all the cards for Mordred and I have all the cards for Claret because I wanted to profile both decks after I was done playtesting them, working out the kinks. I think I've worked out all the kinks for Claret. I just need to more so test with Mordred, but Mordred is actually a lot simpler than Claret. So let's get into the profile. Starter for Claret, it's going to be David because, you know, David was there since day one for Claret. You know how it is. So let's start with the trigger lineup. I run not 4, not 8, but I'm actually running 12 crit and 4 heal for Claret Sword Dragon. The reason that I'm running 12 crit 4 heal for this deck is because the way the Claret's mechanic works is you have your grade 1, you have grade 1s and grade 2s, and Claret himself that are milling the top cards of the deck. You mill triggers a lot. And so I decided to make I decided to increase my chances of hitting a critical trigger by 90% out of 90% of 100% because I'm running 12 crit and 4 draw. And every time I hit every draws aren't bad in this deck, but because I've never experienced deck out. I've experienced close to decking out with both this build and the draw build, but every time I saw a draw, I just kind of preferred it to be a crit. And running 12 crits, critting your opponent early game, putting them at that 2 damage or 3 damage is just kind of crucial for the way this deck plays. Because the way this deck plays is you obviously want to stick the Force 2 on your Claret Sword Vanguard, and then just kind of, if your opponent's at 3 damage or 4 you just want to kind of threaten game. At least that's the way that I've noticed this deck wants to be played in my playtesting. So yeah, that's the reason why I run the 12 crit. I've never really experienced any problems in my hand size. I never really needed the draws. So yeah, let's go on to the grade 1s. You run 4 Bronwyn. Bronwyn is one of your consistency cards in the deck that lets you search the top 5 for a grade 3. It helps you get your Claret. It helps you get your Astute Knight. And its other skill is if you have 3 grade 1s in the drop zone, it's a 13k booster or attacker. So yeah, Bronwyn's good. You run Bronwyn at 4. It's your consistency card. She's basically what you would call a staple now. I know, right? Staples and standard. Crazy. But yeah, this is a card that'll basically never lose its value unless it's reprinted, which I doubt Bushy will do. They barely reprint. So yeah, you run her at 4. It's probably going to be run at 4 in all Shadow Paladin decks. And then I run 4 Blue Espada Dragon. I got a love-hate relationship with Blue Espada Dragon. Its skill is Vanguard or Rearguard. Mill the top 3. If there's a Morian Spear or a Claret, add it to hand. I don't like it because it's only top 3, but it's alright because it's another searcher for your grade 3, and you're running 7 grade 3s, but you only ever want to ride Claret. That's the one caveat of this deck, but it does have a lot of filtering from the deck and in your hand, to whereas I've never really had an issue not finding the Claret. So yeah, you run Blue Spot at 4. His other ability is if there's 5 grade 1s after he milled, he gets a plus 10k. Which, it's okay, but I feel like you have to be set up beforehand to be able to get most of the time I don't really get the plus 10k. I wish it was 4 or maybe 3, but I don't know, maybe Bushy thought that would be too good. So yeah, these are your consistency cards. You gotta run them at 4. And we're playing 4 Knight of Machinations. Knight of Machinations is really good considering you have 8 grade 1s that are on place. So he's really good to be a 13k booster that can get rid of these without calling on top of him, or a 13k attacker that can get rid of him without calling on top of him. So yeah, so the reason I run Knight of Machinations at 4, he's really good for just cleaning up your field when you don't have Astute Knight or Macmorna on the board. And then obviously for the last grade 1, since I'm not running draw PGs, I have to run the grade 1 PGs. But I've actually experienced no trouble with this at all in Claret. Even milling this, I've never really had any trouble with it, because if it's in your hand, well, you're fine with that. It's fodder in your hand now to keep. It's fodder in your hand. You could just PG, and this is adding to your count. You could PG and ditch a grade 1, and now that's +2 to your count for Claret Sword Dragon's restand. So I've never really had a problem with it, even when I milled it. It feels bad when you mill it, kind of, if you kind of needed the PG in that scenario, but most of the time, it's fairly alright, to be honest. I've never really had any troubles where I'm like, well, damn, milling my PGs cost me the game. So yeah, I only run 16 grade 1s. The reason why I only run 16 grade 1s instead of what most people are doing is like 18, 19, 20, 21 is because the deck, realistically speaking, the deck can only do the Claret restand twice. You can do it once on your first grade 3 ride, and then your second turn, you can do it again. You can't do it a third time, because by that time, you would have to get 7 in the drop zone a third time. You will most likely not have any deck. And yes, that's even with 12 crit, you will most likely not have any deck. Because grade 1s go into the damage zone, grade 1s are bound. You would need to run 21 grade 1s and see all your grade 1s in the drop zone for that to be able to work, and that's just really not feasible. So that's why I'm running 16. 16 works for me. I've never felt like I needed more or I needed any less. I've gotten it off consistently twice, which is how the deck wants to be played. Once you get it off twice, if they're not dead yet, you either like deck out or lose, to be honest. So yeah, that's why I run only 16 grade 1s. On to the grade 2s. You obviously have to run 4 Morian Spear because of Blue Espada and because of his drop and draw ability. You Soul Blast 1, ditch a card, it gets +5 and you draw a card. If you ditch the grade 1, it gets +10 instead. But this is just really good in general because the first time you use it, you're getting 2 grade 1s into the drop zone if you're ditching a grade 1, because you're Soul Blasting a grade 1 and then you're ditching 1 from your hand. You obviously don't want to ditch a PG, but this is just an example. You're ditching 1 from your hand. So he gets a +2 into the, well, not +2, but it's a 2 count into your little cachet of grade 1s for your Claret restand. So that's why you have to run that 4. Then you're running 4 Dark Pride. Dark Pride is basically the grade 2 version of Espada, except he's like, hey bro, if you see a grade 1 counterblast 1, draw a card. His +5 will be there even if you don't mill. So let's say you're low on deck, you don't have to mill, you can just call it, be like, hey, +5. So yeah, you run Dark Pride at 4. He's another engine to get grade 1s into the drop zone. So that's why you run him at 4. And then for the last grade 2, I'm actually running 2 Macmorna. Now, you might not know what this card does because no one else is really running this card. Macmorna is, when it attacks, it has to retire another rearguard to attack. But his other continuous is, when it attacks, he gets +15k if there's 3 or more grade 1s in the drop zone. So he's a 25k attacker by himself. If you called him off of Astute Knight, he's a 35k attacker by himself. Now I know what you're thinking, but Claret's binding grade 1s. How are you going to get the 3 grade 1s in there? Nay. See, sometimes, not all the time, it kind of conflicts, but you're not calling this all the time. This is just a 2 of. It's there if you need it, to obviously sack off grade 1s on the field that you don't need anymore. It's there if you need it, but if you don't need it, call a Dark Pride, call a Morian Spear. Or if you want to get this attack through before Claret hits, okay, I'll attack you for 35k before I attack with my Claret Sword Dragon. If you took the damage, you're either going to 3 or you're going to, realistically speaking, you're either going to 3 or you're going to 4, which is right where I want you to be for Claret. So yeah, this is what I've been using. It's what been working out for me. Personally, the 2 Macmornas. It is a little bit of confliction, but not too much, to be honest. Like I said, if you don't need it, don't call it. For the 2 of Slotto, the Macmorna, you don't have to play it. You could play 2 Cursed Lancers. I've never really had a problem with Counterblast, because the only cards that Counterblast are Claret, Dark Pride, and Astute Knight. So you could play this, but it's fighting for soul with Morion Spear, and you have to call it on top of something, which is not always a bad thing, but it only can be called on top of something. Or you could play 2 Connor, which again is fighting for soul for Morion Spear, because you want to use Morion Spear more than once, realistically speaking. Filter out your hand and get grade 1s into your little cache. So, yeah. That's my grade 2 lineup. Now for my grade 3s, you're only running 7 because, well, you've had to cut down on the grade 2s and the grade 1s to run 16 ones, but you only need 7. So I'm running 4 Claret Sword Dragon. Now, he's basically what he's your deck. You built your whole deck around this card. His on-play skill is reveal the top 3 cards of your deck, put any amount of grade 1s from them into the drop zone. He gets plus 10k for each put into the drop zone. And the reason that they gave him this ability is because this deck is meant to be Force 2. You're supposed to be a Force 2 swinging Vanguard. Be like 2 crit, okay? 2 crit again. That's the way this deck is supposed to be played. And obviously his restand ability is Counterblast 1 at the end of the battle, bind 7 grade 1s from your drop zone, restand him, -1 check. Now it's only 7 grade 1s, which is super easy to get off in this deck, for the most part. Unless you open up super bad, it's very easy to get off in this deck. So his restand is basically free, and that's why I've never really had any trouble with hand in this deck. And for the last grade 3 is Astute Knight. Astute Knight makes the deck. Like Astute Knight and Claret go hand in hand. You don't always need this card, but it's super helpful, especially when you want to get rid of your on-place grade 1s or any other extra grade 1s on the field. Astute Knight says Counterblast 1, sack 2 other rear guards, and then you can call a rear unit from your drop zone whose grade is equal to the sum of the amount of the 2 sacked rear guards. So most of the time you're getting rid of 2 grade 1s to, like I said, call a Mac Morna. This is 35k now because of Astute Knight gives 10k to himself and 10k to Mac Morna. Call a Dark Pride if you're trying to mill more grade 1s. Call a Morion Spear. So yeah, he is the deck himself. He's a key piece of the deck. So you need him at least 3. You could cut 1 to add another grade 1, but like I said, I don't feel like I need any more because I've consistently gotten it off twice. So yeah. Alright, and now to talk about cards that we don't run, or why we don't run this certain engine. I know it's going to come up in the comments. I already said why we don't run PGs, or why we don't run draw PGs, but I do not run the main engine because I know a lot of people play the main engine, and the main engine is not bad. It's not bad at all. The reason I don't run it is because it's a direct contradiction to Claret Sword. How is the main engine a direct contradiction? You're pulling grade 1s from your deck onto the field. Yes, it's a +1 and it's for free, but it contradicts Claret Sword Dragon. For when you ride him, you're searching the top 3 for your grade 1s. You're milling the top 3 for your grade 1s. You're also milling the top 3 for your grade 1s. You're contradicting 12 cards in your deck to get a free +1. The main engine is good, don't get me wrong, but if you're using the main engine, you're relying solely on Astute Knight to get rid of those extra grade 1s that you built on the field, and well, what would be the point of even using these abilities? Because you're not likely to hit a grade 1 anymore because you're pulling them out of your deck every turn. So there would be no real reason to use them. You're making your deck kind of slower and less consistent. So that's why I don't really run the main engine, because I haven't really needed it. Just from my playtesting. I playtested it with the main engine to begin with. Because I asked one of my friends, Dylan, like, hey, I want to build a Claret. Give me any pointers. He's like, try the main. I was like, I don't know about the main. So I tried it without the main first. I was like, tried it with the main first. I'm like, this is kind of better. And then I tried it with 12 crit, and I'm like, wow, this is actually like really good. So yeah, that's my reason for not running the main engine. You could run the main engine. I'm not saying it's a bad engine. I just feel personally that it contradicts what the deck is trying to do. But yeah, this is my Claret deck profile. I feel like it's a solid tier 2 deck, high tier 2. I wouldn't call it tier 1 because if you open up bad, like really bad, like I said, your cards play off of each other. You really kind of need them. You don't always need a Astute Knight, but most of the time you do need a Astute Knight. Like Blue Espada, Dark Pride, Claret. Your cards play off of each other. They're meant to play off of each other. So if you don't open up like decent, you open up really bad, you could just lose because you really can't play the game. But yeah, guys, that's my deck profile. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Let me know if you liked this format, me kind of explaining into the deck, or you just wanted to see the cards and whatnot. And I'll be doing more in the future. Later.